Thousands of years ago, people with no machines, no computers, and no cranes built structures so perfect that we still can't copy them today. And the thing is, we have no idea how they did it. But it's not just how they built things that keeps experts up at night. It's the things we found inside those buildings. Objects that shouldn't exist. Carvings that look like things we invented in the last 100 years. Maps that show continents that weren't officially discovered until thousands of years later. What if the history we've been taught is missing a huge piece of the puzzle? We think of ancient people as primitive, people who were just figuring things out, barely surviving using stone tools. But the more we dig into the ruins they left behind, the harder it gets to hold on to that idea. There are things that ancient civilizations built, drew, and knew about that we genuinely cannot explain. Not in a maybe someday we'll figure it out kind of way. In a this doesn't fit any explanation we have right now kind of way. Today we're going to go through some of the biggest, strangest, and most mind-bending mysteries that ancient civilizations left behind. These aren't fringe theories. These are real structures, real objects, and real questions that serious researchers are still trying to answer. Here's the core problem. We have a very clean story we tell about human history. Humans started simple. Over thousands of years we got smarter, built bigger things, learned more. Progress was slow and steady. That's the model, and it works really well for most of history. But then you look at places like ancient Egypt, or ancient Sumer, or the Indus Valley civilization, and the story starts to break down. These cultures didn't seem to slowly develop their knowledge. They appeared almost fully formed, with advanced math, advanced astronomy, advanced agriculture, and construction skills that even today's engineers find impressive. No awkward learning period, no messy early attempts. They just showed up already knowing things. Where did that knowledge come from, and why does so much of it seem to have been lost? Let's start with the most famous one, because even after everything we think we know about it, it's still deeply weird. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built roughly 4,500 years ago. It contains about 2.3 million stone blocks. Some of those blocks weigh up to 80 tons. The whole structure is aligned to true north with an accuracy of 0.05 degrees, better than the Greenwich Observatory in London, which was built with modern tools specifically to be accurate. The base of the pyramid stretches across 13 acres. The variation in the height of the base, less than 2 centimeters across the entire thing. That's not just impressive for ancient construction, that would be impressive now. But here's what really gets people. We've never found a single piece of physical evidence showing exactly how the Egyptians moved those blocks. No machines, no ramps that could have made physical sense at that scale. The ramp theory, which is the mainstream one, requires that the ramp used to drag blocks up would have had to be longer than the pyramid itself, and would have taken as much material to build as the pyramid did. And then, where did all that ramp material go? There's no evidence of it anywhere near the site. Engineers today, with access to modern cranes and machinery, say it would be extremely difficult to replicate the Great Pyramid to the same specifications. Not impossible, but genuinely hard. So how did people 4,500 years ago do it? In 1938, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig was working in a museum in Baghdad when he found something strange. A clay jar, roughly 2,000 years old, containing a copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod. When he looked at it, he had a thought that seemed completely crazy at the time. This looks like a battery. Replicas were later built using the same materials, copper, iron, and an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice. They generated about 1.1 volts of electricity. That's not a lot, but it works. The question nobody can answer is, what was it used for? There's no writing from that era that mentions it. There are no wires, no lights, no circuits found anywhere near it. Some researchers think it might have been used for electroplating, coating objects in a thin layer of metal using electricity. Others think it was for something religious. A few think it had a completely mundane purpose we haven't figured out yet. But the base fact remains. People in ancient Iraq may have had working knowledge of electricity 2,000 years before we officially invented it. And if they had that, what else did they have that left no trace? In 1994, a farmer in southeastern Turkey was out in a field when he kicked up something strange in the dirt. What followed was the discovery of Göbekli Tepe, a massive stone temple complex built approximately 12,000 years ago. That date is the problem, because 12,000 years ago, according to everything we thought we knew, humans were hunter-gatherers. They hadn't settled down yet. They hadn't invented agriculture. They were nomads moving from place to place following food. You don't build a massive, intricate stone temple complex if you're a nomad. You don't have the workforce, you don't have the organization, and you definitely don't have the time to dedicate to a project like this. Göbekli Tepe has enormous carved pillars, some of them 18 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. They're covered in detailed animal carvings. The whole site was clearly used for ritual gatherings over a long period of time, and when they were done with it, they buried it deliberately. They filled it in with dirt and moved on. This site forces us to push back the timeline of complex human society by thousands of years, which raises a terrifying follow-up question. If organized, monument-building human society is 12,000 years old, not 5,000 or 6,000, how much of that earlier period is still buried? What else are we missing? In 1900, divers off the coast of a Greek island pulled up the wreckage of an ancient ship. Inside was a corroded lump of bronze that nobody paid much attention to for a while. When researchers finally took a closer look, they found something that completely defied explanation. The Antikythera Mechanism, named after the island, is a mechanical device made of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears. It was built somewhere between 150 and 100 BC, and it was used to predict astronomical events, eclipses, the positions of the sun and moon, the dates of the Olympic Games, and the movements of planets. It is, without question, an analog computer. The complexity of the gear system inside it wasn't matched by any other known technology for over 1,000 years after it was made. We don't know who built it. We don't know of any civilization at that time period that should have had the technical ability to build something like this. The nearest equivalent in terms of engineering complexity didn't appear in recorded history until medieval Europe, and even that took centuries more to develop. How did someone in ancient Greece build a working mechanical computer? And if they could do that, what else could they build that hasn't survived? In the dry desert of southern Peru, there were giant drawings etched into the earth. Some of them are animals: a hummingbird, a condor, a monkey. Some are geometric shapes. Some are straight lines that run for miles across the desert without any deviation. These drawings were made by the Nazca people, somewhere between 500 BC and 500 AD. Some of the figures are hundreds of meters long. The preservation is extraordinary because the Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth, which is partly why the lines are still there. But here's what makes this a mystery. You can't see the full shapes from the ground. You can only see them properly from the air. So who are these drawings for? Why would you spend enormous amounts of time and effort creating images that you yourself could never actually see? Some researchers argue there's a ritualistic explanation, that the lines were walked as a kind of spiritual practice, and the gods in the sky were the intended audience. Others have pointed to astronomical alignments, suggesting the lines track the movements of stars and planets, important to the Nazca for agricultural purposes. No explanation is satisfying. None of them fully account for the sheer scale, the precision, or the strange choice to make art that's invisible from where you're standing. Here's the thing that ties all of these mysteries together, and it's something a lot of mainstream history tends to gloss over. Almost every ancient civilization, across continents, across oceans, with no known contact with each other, left behind flood myths. The Sumerians had it, the ancient Greeks had it, the Hindus had it, the Aztecs had it. Indigenous people across North America, Africa, and Asia had it. All of them told a story about a great flood that destroyed an earlier, more advanced civilization. All of them said that only a few survivors made it through, and that those survivors carried with them the knowledge of the world that had been lost. That's a very specific story to be telling across completely separate cultures that never met each other. Now, we do know that around 12,000 years ago, right around the time Göbekli Tepe was being built, the last ice age ended. Sea levels rose by hundreds of feet. Massive coastal areas that had been inhabited for thousands of years were swallowed by the ocean. Any civilization that had been living along those coasts would have been wiped out, and their cities would now be sitting at the bottom of the sea. We have not searched the bottom of the sea anywhere close to thoroughly enough to know what's down there. What if the missing piece of history isn't in the ruins we found, but in the ruins we haven't found yet? What if there was an earlier civilization, not aliens, not magic, just humans, thousands of years further along than we think, and the flood ended them, and the survivors scattered and restarted, carrying fragments of their knowledge into the new cultures that came after? That would explain a lot. The sudden appearance of complex knowledge in early civilizations, the shared myths, the buildings we can't quite figure out, the objects that shouldn't exist yet. We started with a simple idea, that ancient people were primitive, and by now, I think we've pretty thoroughly put that idea in the ground. The Great Pyramid was built with a precision that modern engineers find uncomfortable to explain. The Baghdad Battery suggests electrical knowledge 2,000 years before Edison. Göbekli Tepe pushes the timeline of complex human society back further than almost anyone expected. The Antikythera Mechanism was a working computer built before Rome was at its peak, and the Nazca Lines were drawn for an audience that could only be looking down from above. None of these things fit neatly into the story we've been told. All of them have real, documented evidence. All of them are still genuinely unsolved. The deeper you go into ancient history, the more it starts to feel less like a simple story of slow progress, and more like a puzzle with a lot of pieces missing. And every decade, we dig up something new that rearranges everything we thought we knew. History is not finished. It's a mystery we're still in the middle of solving. If you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, the next video is right there waiting for you.